Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 163. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving it a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of Complexion Photography. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by her story. Let's chop it up with Nystasha Kelly. Nystasha, how's it going?
It's going great. I can't complain at all. How about yourself?
Glad to hear that. All is well on my end, too. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. I really appreciate it.
Righteous, no problem. No problem.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, here to talk about all the great things you have going on in business with complexion photography. But before we talk business, let's get to know the woman behind the brand. Born in the Gump, but raised in Hope Hall. What was your upbringing like in Hope Hall?
Okay, I can say that my upbringing in Hopewell pretty much kind of centered of how I am today. Hopewell is the country. A lot of people say it is in Montgomery County. It's the same thing, but at the same time, the atmosphere is totally different. Being around nature and stuff, right? Stuff like that pretty much gravitated to me becoming an artist, to be honest with you. So I wasn't, in back then, in the mid 90s and stuff like that, we didn't have, phones. You know what I mean?
Right.
We didn't have phones. We didn't have things like screen time and stuff like that. So I'm truly grateful of that because I believe that pretty much opened the door within my mind to really, open that other door to being an artist.
Mm. That makes perfect sense. And I appreciate you just for sharing a little bit about your background. That makes a lot of sense. Growing up in the country, and like you said, not having a phone and not having access to other resources and just having like a blank canvas, it pretty much helped you tap into that creative side. And now you've translated it into a business. That's dope.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
Okay, sounds good. So growing up in Hope Hall, and then of course, you make your way through grade school and end up at the Alabama State University on South Jackson Street. What was the HBCU experience like for you?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. Because I actually went through I say Floyd, Middle Magnet, and Brutech. So going to those schools, it was very culturally diverse. And I was used to just about everybody on when it comes to ethnicity. And when I got to ASU, it was culture shock
Mm.
because it was a HBCU. You know what I mean? I was always keen to knowing that I wanted to go to ASU, because I wasn't too fond of the idea of being away from my parents, to be real. I know it's like the opposite of what you probably hear of somebody else say, like I'm going far away, but nah, I was not like that. So I always knew that I wanted to go to ASU. So like I said, once I got there, it was like culture shock because all I saw was African Americans. Of course, you see other races here and there, but majority, of course, is a HBCU. So it was culture shock, and it was a great culture shock. Nothing bad at all. Let me say that for one. When I got there, it was different. I pretty much got along with everyone. It wasn't like a culture shock where it was something that it was standoffish. It was fun. It really was fun.
Okay, sounds good, and that makes sense. And culture shock isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I appreciate you for just breaking yours down, going to Floyd, Brutech, that magnet school environment. A lot of black, a lot of white. Then you come over to South Jackson Street, and it's a whole lot of us from all over. So, which is a great thing because when we come together, we party, we graduate, we get it done. Now, like ain't no play now. We get it
For
done.
sure.
Yes, ma'am. And that's one thing about the HBCU experience I definitely enjoyed, Nastasha, just get a chance to meet people from all over. People I did not know from Montgomery, of course, and meet people from
Mhm.
all over the East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest, and just came together and created those lifelong memories. So I definitely understand what you were saying about as well, not want to be far away from your parents, and nothing wrong with that. You did what worked for you, and you didn't do what most people do. I mean, a lot of people do. They graduate from high school and they move across the world. I I stayed in Montgomery too. I went to Lee, then I went right around the street to ASU, and it all worked out. So I'm glad that you were able to attend ASU and have some great experiences there.
Most definitely.
Yes, ma'am. So what exactly did you major in while you was at state?
So, I believe that, well, let me tell you how I got to the major. I believe it was destined for me, because when well, to be being an art, as I was an art major, but I believe it was destined for me because when I got to ASU, I didn't have, like, I was, because, you go through your prerequisites first before you get, not prerequisites, but you go through the actual classes like biology and all that stuff first before you really get to your major like that. And I didn't have anything like, but when I first got there, because around that time you're a freshman at ASU, they picked your okay. They picked our classes freshman year. And once I got my schedule, I saw art classes on there and I pretty much just ran with it. I was like, okay, art classes. And that led me to being a graphic design major.
Okay, no, that sounds good, and yeah, you definitely are destined to be who you are, being in that as you were talking about earlier, growing up in Hope Hall and tapping to that creative side, and coming to ASU and not really and not having a major at the time, ended up in graphic design. So definitely sounds like the stars aligned and you ended up in the right major to match your skill set.
Most definitely. And just to also express, like, before I went to ASU, I did want to go to Auburn, but at the same time, ASU was always my top. But if I had to with the Auburn, I was gonna go to school to be architect engineering. But that was still within the arts because at Brutech, my academy was architect engineering, and so I always liked the idea of drawing and stuff like that. So once I got to ASU and I saw those art classes, I was like, okay, that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Powerful stuff. And that's great that you were able to find that major and excel in it and go on to graduate from the Alabama State University. And I appreciate you for giving us a little bit of background about yourself.
No problem. No problem.
Yes, ma'am. So present day, you are the founder, owner, operator of Complexion Photography. What inspired that name?
Um, it all went, let's start with college. Like I said, I was a graphic design major, but at the same time, as a graphic design major, they encouraged us to take photography because they looked at it from a standpoint, if a client came to you, you could be like a one-stop shop. Okay. And I know around that time, I know Kendrick Lamar was pretty one of his albums, I forgot what it's called, but the song Complexion, it's a beautiful song. If people know what I'm talking about, yeah. Okay. It's a song called Complexion on one of his albums back in the day. And I know when I was in school at ASU, every time we would have like a project or something like that, I would always listen to that song Complexion. And just to give you a little, it's like complexion don't mean a thing. And it's like that bar always stuck with me because originally my photography name was Photography by Lee. And Lee is actually part of my name, but it was my grandmother's middle name. And she's a person, someone I'd never met before. But it's so ironic that her birthday and my birthday is on the same. And my mom always felt that she was in her mom. So I wanted to honor her and name myself Photography by Lee. And then as I evolved in my photography business, complexion seemed king to me. So that's how it happened. And I always look at, complexion as, of course, it goes deeper than just skin to me. It's who the person is with, so that's what inspired me to name my complexion.
Hmm. Wow, that's very powerful. Yes, ma'am. That's very powerful, organic way how you came up with the name. And yes, I do remember that song. It was on To Pimp a Butterfly album, and that was
Yeah.
the song Rhapsody was on. Rhapsody, because I had never heard of Rhapsody, and she popped on at the end, and she was
Yeah.
she was spitting some hot fire. I remember
Yeah.
Complexion.
Most definitely, most definitely. So yeah, that's what inspired me. And it's like still to this day, I can listen to the song and just think about that moment that I had that transition with my brand name. It was very something that always been keen to me. And I started taking pictures back in 2014. So this year be 10 years. And around that time, I was like maybe 2 years in. So 2016, that's when I rebranded myself as and just took off.
Yes, ma'am. That's powerful stuff, and I love to hear how names come about, and your story is just as organic as it comes. Like just listening to that song, and that's one of the reasons why I love music so much. Because music, especially if it's like a pivotal moment in your life, you always be able to tie that song back to that moment, like you were just
Yeah,
describing.
most definitely.
Yes, ma'am. Powerful stuff. So I know you were saying while you were a graphic design major, your professors encouraged y'all to take a photography class. That was gonna be my next question. When did you first discover that gift? Sounds like it was while you was at ASU.
Yes, most definitely. I say like my sophomore year at ASU. Like I said, they encouraged us to take photography classes, and it wasn't like they offered two; they offered one and two. So I took photography one the first semester of my sophomore year, and I just fell in love with it because at the end of the day, I am an artist at heart, and I looked at photography as just another form of art, and I enjoyed it so much. I went on and took photography two. Before photography two, the school they gave us cameras to use, but I dove into it so much to where when I took photography two, I invested into my own. So I invested into that, and that's when I just started really flourishing with photography.
Mm, wow. Yes, ma'am. Good stuff. And just like I said, just looking at, like I said earlier, I was looking at your portfolio and just checking out your skills and your gifts, your gift of photography. And without giving away your sauce, what goes into capturing a great picture?
Being able to make the person comfortable with me. And I say that because you have to get their personality out of them for the picture. Of course, me, I'm taking the picture, I'm snapping, but I truly believe that it's the person that makes the picture because that's why I try my best to be as patient and as kind as possible because I'm meeting a lot of people all the time. You know what I mean? And so that's why when we first get started, I asked them, I said, what type of music you like? I'm saying to get them loosened up because a lot of them say, this is my first time, I don't know what to do. Like, it's okay. You're in good hands. But I believe the essence of just allowing people to be themselves as I revert back to complexion, right? They're being themselves. And so I believe that's like the sauce to it all because I know a lot of people they can work with people and not be themselves, and I want to be the opposite of that. And I believe when they're being themselves, they bring out their personality that makes the picture.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Just really listening to the client and like you said, making sure they're comfortable, making sure you're you're taking notes and being observant, reading the room, and like that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
psychology.
Yes,
And-
ma'am.
for sure.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So as it relates to some of the other pictures that I've seen in your portfolio, like the off guard that you take when you're at different events. So when is it just like a feeling that like, hey, this is a good shot, this is a good time to take a picture? Like what goes into taking those pictures that aren't necessarily like a personal photo shoot?
Being at the right place at the right time.
Okay.
um, For real, like I was mentored by one of the goats, David Campbell at ASU. Shout out, okay. I actually took pictures for ASU for a few years and still do to this day whenever they need me. And he taught me a lot. And it's by the grace of God that I was planted in that position to actually take pictures of ASU because it taught me about body language with people. It taught me how to pay attention, read the room of people and just things going on to be there at the right time. You can't be not on your feet when it comes to events. Like You got to really be there at the right moment at the right time, and like just be able to read the room and actually read people, you know what I mean? So it's
Right.
something that you just have to, you can't be off guard, you know. I'm not saying it in a hard way or anything like that, but it's a really strong skill set that you just have to have.
Yes, ma'am. And you definitely have this skill set. And like I said, just looking at your portfolio and the fact that ASU had you coming to graduation, taking pictures, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a testament to your skill set and just the great work that's powerful.
Well, righteous, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, I like to talk about three things: the aha moment, action, and audacity. Take us back to your aha moment when you first had the idea to turn your love for photography into a business.
Um, Back when I was at ASU, I had a professor known as Professor Frederick Pelham. He always conditioned us to allow our skill sets to turn. And back then, and that's exactly what I did. I figured that I could really take this thing and make it a business when I started Complexion back in 2016. I had been taking pictures back, 2 years prior, but I was just really just taking pictures of like nature. That's what really got me started. Taking pictures of nature, doing different type of techniques with cars and lights and motion and stuff like that. But what really got me going with the business aspect of it is like I got a camera. I know it can produce money. Why not? you know, like seriously, why not? So that's what happened.
Okay, like simple, straight to the point. I love it. Like, ain't no need to no long drawn out plan. Hey, your professor planted the seed and you acting on it. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Sure.
And the action portion, that portion I was going to talk about next. How long did it take you to once you got the idea? How long did it take you to actually come up with a business name and get started in business?
Um, 2 years after I started, as far as the business thing, and I say I really pretty much took off on the business side. I say 2017. Yeah, around 2017 because back then, I first got my big, I say my big gig for real when I was taking pictures at ASU, at SkyCap. Back then, I was hired to take pictures of camp, the summer camps where the kids go to. And that pretty much opened that door for me to really launch my business. And I'm forever grateful because everything is like a leading block to something else. You just don't see, you just keep going.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's that. To me, it sounds like you just have a very great faith walk. Like just to keep going. Like not knowing what was on the other side, you just never stopped going. Like you never gave up.
Oh,
Cause
definitely.
yes, ma'am, you start a business and it's easy to start. Everybody starts out excited. Everybody starts out enthused, ready to take on the world. But what do you do when things don't necessarily go your way? Because in in any business, any journey of success, you're gonna have obstacles, you're gonna have adversity, you know? Yes, ma'am.
Well, faith, my faith in God, Yahshua, and I tell you, being an entrepreneur is rewarding, but at the same time, it tests your faith. Okay, it really does, and that's what I can just really say. Like it, my faith is very strong. So just to kind of give you a background on that, my photography led me to work in WAK, and I just, I went on and, did it just to kind of see how it was. You know what I mean? I believe it was kind of in the same arena. Of course, it's slightly, it's different. Don't get me wrong, it's different because I was videoing, so I was the photographer. I was a news photog, so I went around different, counties that's close to Montgomery and got the news for the station. And like basically capturing candid moments but in video, so I did that for a few years, and I loved it. It was a lot. Every day was different, and a lot of different experiences and stuff like that, but at the same time I grew unhappy with it, because it was just getting to the point too much at the time, because I'm sitting here trying to stay afloat of being a photographer because if you don't post, you don't do X, Y, Z, you don't promote, they people forget about you. you know. So with that being said, working a 40-hour to 45-hour job every week with the news, and then having to stack my photography business on the weekend, I didn't have a break. It was very tiring. So what ended up happening was I took a leap of faith and I left my job. I gave my job back to someone. You didn't quit. You gave the job back. I gave the job back, and since last year September, I've been doing it. So it's been a year now. Yeah, a year, and I'm very grateful that I did.
Wow. Well, first off, I want to congratulate you for taking that leap of faith, leaving the job, and a year after leaving the job, you're still here going strong at the full time entrepreneur. Salute.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that's why I say faith, man. Faith is everything. Like, I didn't second guess anything. I just knew everything was gonna be all right because prior to working with the news, I was already an entrepreneur. Like I've only probably had 3 jobs and they were like very short. And it's not because I couldn't keep a job. It wasn't that. It was just the fact that I have an entrepreneur spirit. And when you have an entrepreneur spirit, it's something in you that just doesn't get you tied down to wanting to be at a job. Like
Hmm.
it just makes you like, okay, I see what I'm doing, but I know what I can do. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
like to be quite honest, that news job was the longest I have ever had a job. And I was, proud of myself, something that I could put on my resume and I know that I have the capabilities of doing. But when that entrepreneur spirit is deep down in you, you have no choice but to break away and do it for
Yes,
real.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, that's powerful stuff. And that last portion, that audacity. So it's one thing to have an idea. It's another thing to put it out to the world to be. It's another thing to act on the idea, but to put it out to the world to be praised or criticized, that's where the audacity comes in my opinion. And just hearing you talk about your faith and just how strong your faith is, sounds like you gave yourself the audacity to put complexion photography out to the.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For
That's
sure.
powerful stuff. So let's talk about that transition out of the 9 to 5 world into full-time entrepreneurship. When you got ready to make that transition, did you tell any of your colleagues what you were about to embark on?
No.
Okay. Okay.
No. But at the same time, I feel like they knew. Let's be real. I believe they knew because the way I was moving became different. Not saying in that in a bad way. You know what I mean? But I was behind closed doors. I was building my mission, doing X, Y. But no. But they do. They knew, but they just know when.
No, I completely understand. I'm on the same type of time. I wouldn't say nothing either. I would just put in my 2 weeks notice, and
Yeah,
people start asking, "So what you about to do?" I'm about to do something. You'll see. Just
yeah.
stay tuned.
And then they already knew what I already had uh anyway, because they knew that I had came from a background of photography. Like that's how they had hired me. You know what I mean? So it was nothing like it was a secret to X, Y, and Z, but they didn't really have to ask me no questions. You know what I mean? Like they just knew.
No, and that's great that they just knew what you were about and had an idea of what you were about to embark on. And the reason why I agree with not necessarily telling people what you were about to do is because people can easily put a negative word in your ear and make you second guess yourself. They can almost say something like, "Hey, why are you doing that? Why are you leaving this good job with the benefits?" So I understand why you kept it to yourself and just left.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, everything that you do don't necessarily, spoken out, hence why I don't really have much of my profile there. You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
So, because people they prey on you in a bad way. You know what I mean? And it's like you never know who you're venting or who you're talking to today. So, I've always been like that. It's no need to say anything. You just see it.
I wholeheartedly agree, and that's amazing stuff and spot on. So you've been a full-time entrepreneur for a year now. Just what is that like on a day-to-day basis? Just being your own boss and not having to hit the clock. Like, just take us through that. What is that like?
Well, I get up every morning around 4:30. And I do that. I go to the gym around there. That's like my me time. Of course, before that I give my grace in honor to Yahshua today. I just, get it done, go work out and stuff like that. And after that, I do have a niece and nephew, go take them to school and think I know it's you know, and with that being said, I go ahead and start my day. And just to kind of interject, I'm also obtaining my federal license in investment too. So with that being said, my mornings could consist of studying in the morning with that, and setting my, going to meetings of, talking with people about financial literacy advisement. And then it also can also center around me have photography sessions. So that's pretty much what it looks like. And of course, go pick up the kids, and then in the evening time, I edit, study. You know what I mean? It's pretty. That's pretty much what my typical day look like.
Okay. No, that sounds good. You have a routine, you have a schedule, and I think that's amazing. You still have that structure because it's important to have that structure. I mean, I know a few full-time entrepreneurs. I'm not one yet, but I can only imagine how much discipline it takes to have that structure. So hats off to you for having a routine and being locked in and sticking to getting up at 4:30 and saying grace and hitting the gym, and you just have that overall structure, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's very important because it's easy for you to just be everywhere. You know
Right.
what I mean? It really is, because it's not like a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of free time. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like I have the choice to have the free time, and also, like, use the free time wisely too. You know what I mean? So that's a truly a blessing to have. Especially now I am expecting my first child. Now I'm 60 and a half months in my pregnancy, and I can honestly say that I commend women for needing to work a full-time job, because it's tough.
Mm.
It's really tough, man. And I'm just very grateful that I'm placed in this position in my life to where I'm able to just be an entrepreneur in on my own time and still be able to let life happen within me, you know?
Yes, ma'am. Powerful stuff, and I appreciate you for sharing that. And about to be a mom, congratulations, and
Thank
that's
you.
amazing. And women, y'all are amazing. Y'all give birth. Y'all do a lot that us men
Yeah.
could never do. We couldn't fathom. So no, that's amazing. Creating life and bringing a new life into the world, and I'm pretty sure the rest of your pregnancy and the delivery, everything will be a success. Everything is going to be.
Righteous.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So you being a creative, you being a photographer, you always capturing these great moments. So when you're just out and about with the family, is it difficult for you to like turn that off? Like if you say if you're going to pick up the kids and you're sitting in the car and you see something, do you have to stop yourself sometimes from snapping a picture with your phone, or are you always in creative mode?
I am not always in creative mode.
Okay.
Being saying that because I've been taking pictures. I've been in this industry for 10 years, so I'm at the point where I can turn off that mode, be me. Okay, I
Okay.
can just be me. It's not like it's new anymore. You know what I mean? Because when you're doing something new, you always on your toes, want to do X, Y, and Z. I'm at the point now, when I work, and when I don't, I don't. Now, I will say this, the only time that the creative mode really kind of flourished like that, and when I'm not, my toes, like, taking pictures, is when I'm talking to people. I find beauty in a lot and everybody. And it's like I look at them from the essence, like, wow, you'd be a really great muse. Something like that. But other than that, nope. I don't take out my phone. It's so funny because my mom, she actually, whenever we go somewhere like a little family event or whatever, she look at me. She said, "You got your camera?" I'm like, "Girl, no, no, I don't." I said, I'm here to enjoy myself. So,
Mm,
yeah. So there is a balance there, most definitely.
mm. Yes, ma'am. I think that's great that you do have that balance. And like you said, you've been in the game for 10 years. So you're at that place where you you're a veteran, you're a pro, you're an expert. And the fact that you're able to turn it off and be out of creative mode and be in the moment and things of that nature, that's amazing that you do have that balance. Thanks for sharing.
Right, she's no problem.
Yes, ma'am. So you've done great things with the business, and I'm sure great things are coming down the pipeline, which leads to my next portion, vision. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals for the business you feel comfortable sharing?
No problem. Well, I have a knack for teaching. I really do. So with that being said, I righteously want to get to a point where I'm actually teaching graphic design and photography and having classes for people because some people might not agree with this, but some people will. But I do not believe that you have to go to school for what I do. And I say that because it's a skill set. A skill set can be taught when you're in the right hands of whoever is teaching. So, and I would love to cater to a lot of entrepreneurs that do have business and they want branding and stuff like that. Like you can do it yourself. You know what I mean? You have the right tools. You understand the basics of things. You can do it yourself. And I actually had the opportunity to teach photography and graphic design classes back before COVID came. Back in 2019, I was actually doing it with the continuing education department at ASU, and I had adults, I had college age students, I had older people. So when that happened before COVID, I was in the midst of starting my second round of the classes, and things happened. Like COVID came, and I couldn't do it. And but at the same time, that actually opened my eyes to something that was in myself. I have a great deal of patience with people, and I'm pretty sure that I can turn that into a teaching environment that want to know about this type of skill set, but don't want to go to school for it.
Hmm. That makes sense, and that's a great goal, long-term, short-term, and I'm sure you'll make whatever you set your mind to come to fruition.
Most definitely, and I just right now, I'm about to start a family, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's something that I'm looking towards doing pretty soon. You know what I mean? So that just depending on how things go with my son, so because I have to be there for him, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
and then I believe the teaching is a more slower pace, you know, than outwardly, actively shooting. So we'll see. But that's definitely in the plans right now that I'm looking towards doing. Far as me actually being the photographer, um, if it comes to a point where I feel like I need to hire someone, I'll do that too. So that's where I'm at with
Okay.
that.
Absolutely. That's great stuff. Great stuff. Even that part you said about not necessarily having to go to school for a skill, especially if you have the right person teaching the skill. I agree wholeheartedly. Like what you do in photography, you could definitely teach people without them having to go to college and all that good stuff. I mean, because it's college is cool. I definitely enjoyed the experience. I definitely enjoyed the relationships and the people I got to meet. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but when you know better, you do better. And I think it's great that you're going to create this educational photography, educational hub for aspiring photographers who don't necessarily want to go to the 4 year college route. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, because college is great.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? College is great. The one thing I will say from college is that I made connections.
Right,
Okay, the college is great for connections because had I not went to college to learn what I know, I wouldn't have made the connections that I made.
right,
I wouldn't have gotten to different events or just getting to know different people like I do now, or people know of me had not been for college, and that's real. You know what I mean? Word of mouth is a powerful tool. That's I believe this that my word of mouth is more powerful than any other advertisement out there. Okay, so
1,000%.
yeah, so just making connections. That's why I say like college is not bad. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like you expressed, if you do not want to go to college for certain things, you don't have to. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was working with the news, of course they wanted to have the position that I had. They wanted you to at least have like some videos or. I didn't have that, but at the same time, I believe my connections, my skill set with my photography is what got me. Of course, you do need I did need a degree. Don't get me wrong. Some things you do,
Right.
but at the same time, my connections, my skill set as a photographer is what.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. There's nothing like relationships and word of mouth advertising like you were just speaking to.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wrap up the podcast, I want to ask the $1 million question. So I started this podcast to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery. Whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work, you being born here and coming back here to operate in business where you are present day. I want to ask you, Nastasha, what do you appreciate the most about the city of Montgomery?
Um, I appreciate the fact that there is true opportunity here. Like it really is, and I'm a living proof of that because I'm living off the opportunity. There's opportunity here. There's great people here. Montgomery is small, but it's not small like how some other cities are. I love how homey it is here. Because you can always go out different cities and stuff and expand yourself, right? But I just truly enjoy the fact that there is opportunity here. And I know a lot of people are there in the midst of saying they want to move away from here, you know what I mean? And I can be quite honest with you, I can understand that point. I truly can, but it's like when your heart and your destination and your destined for something is centered to where you're at, you can't help but to be where you're at the same time. So that's what I could say about Montgomery. It's home. You know what I mean? It's home, and it's not from the aspect of me not being afraid to branch out. It's home. So, but yeah, but the most I can say that there is opportunity for sure.
Yes, ma'am, 1,000%. So, Nastasha, how can people connect with you? What are your social media handles and website?
Well, you can connect with me at Nystasha. That is N as in Nancy, YstaSha. Last name Kelly, Kelly on social media. I do also have a photography page on Facebook as Complexion, and I do have an Instagram for my photography that is Complexion with two underscores at the end. You people can email me also at complexionphotography@gmail.com. And my website is complexionphotography that format.com. So I'm pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
you can you can
Okay.
definitely find me.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And of course, I'll put all of that information in the description of the episode. Hey, Nastasha, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
Righteous, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumtown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Gone.